Okay, so we were about to round off the conversation. Unfortunately, Honorable SIRAJI Kamara just showed up. Thank you for coming, though extremely very late.
Very sorry about that, yes.
We were about rounding off this segment. Now, this segment needs to be extended by a couple of minutes more because you're coming in very late. Anyway, we're discussing Parliament and the parliamentary proceedings and what we've seen over the last couple of years from previous parliaments to now. You've been a member of Parliament. What would you say about the House of Parliament?
House of Parliament, I must describe it as a place, if it lives to its expectation, I think we'll have the best arm of government ever. And for me, my brief stint in Parliament, 13 months, was enough to have learned the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I must say that Parliament is missing an opportunity to make the country better. When you start to see members of Parliament, showering panegyrics, eulogies to appointed members of the public, it leaves a lot of questions in your mind. Why are we praising these guys when they are charged to do a responsibility? So for me, that's one of the lowest points of being in Parliament, wherein members of Parliament who are supposed to charge their responsibility to these guys, to ask them to account for their stewardship, yet we are praising them as if they are angels. At the end of the day, they go and mess up and they don't come back. And if I said this before, if Parliament is actually serious, we have no need for institutions like ACC. The Public Accounts Committee is enough to peruse and vet the audited report, but more often than not, we find out that it's a party interest. If the government of the day wants the audit to go just like that, and the head of that committee would just say, okay, let's sat them down in all of these excuses. For me, it is like how this guy called it, my small will say, hypocrite. That is the Greek word for hypocrite, meaning actors. More often, we act in Parliament, we try to showcase to the public as if we are and what we are not. Behind the scenes, we collaborate and do other things. But I think Parliament should be the very strong arm that's supposed to bring propitious governance in the country. If Parliament gets it right, then the executive has no alternative, so also the legislative. But we see a lot of mal-cooperation, among the three arms, which is not good. I would expect Parliament to stand out alone, and be something different, because they're the ones elected by the people.
You just said behind the scenes, yeah, you work together.
Yeah, more often, yes. Yeah, it's an open secret, people know that. But when we come to the well, we behave as if we are cats and dogs, but behind the scenes, they lobby, and that's what I was expecting from that hung Parliament we had. When I was there, I was expecting a series of consultations, before a bill, but you find out that even the speakership was imposed. We were removed from Parliament unlawfully before we could even be given the opportunity to appeal. We have already been replaced. So you see a collaboration between the legislative and judicial, which was wrong. But again, we ask ourselves, the leader of the APC in Parliament, what did he do? So that's why I tell you, they have
I wanted to get that from the angle of the interest of the people of Sierra Leone, not necessarily your political parties.
I know.
That behind the scenes, the MPs collaborate, they work together, they agree.
Yes.
You might even say sometimes they conspire against the people of Sierra Leone.
Yes, if when you talk to the people, it's a conspiracy.
Sometimes, yes, yeah, because it's Parliament that had gone to approve their wardrobe allowance. Absolutely. Without people knowing. In such instances, yes, they conspire yes, against the people of Sierra Leone. So how dangerous would it be that we continue on a trend of the Parliament we've seen, leaving just the APC and the SLPP as the only two political parties in Parliament, due to the PR system that we use?
Well, it's not. Well, yeah, definitely. This is the sad part of our governance. We the politicians know very well that the Northwest is red entrenched. So even if you bring somebody who, of course, this is an open secret. We have members of who have been in that Parliament for 4 or 5 years. They've never said a word. And because they are not capable, but the party chose them, And
so how dangerous is it for the nation to have just the APC and the SLPP as political parties in
That's the danger we have now, because the dangerous part of it that they neglect the people. They know that, oh, okay, 4 years, 6 months, we'll play the game. 6 months to election, we'll bring in bags of rice and few clothing and say this. And because some of these people, they don't even know the candidate. All they know, they see is the red or the green. And that's how dangerous it has been, because the reason for all of it, a third force has never emerged that is out of a person than an ideology. So when, I don't want to name them, but from 96, you have these third force people. Once the person moves away, the third party dies. So until we have a formidable third party, a third force that has a 30-year, 40-year plan, not just for the leader at that moment to wanting to become the president, so that if he build up, like how Charles Magai started PMDC, he got 10 seats. Had he continued the other years, by now maybe we'll have been talking like 3 formidable parties. But because governance has been polarized to just the red and the green, the politicians don't take people seriously. They know at the end of the day, well, we'll come, there are people, bad bush, bad brother, there's all those things. But definitely that's responsibility, that's something that's responsible for our backwardness in this country, because we cannot hold our politicians to account. It's our party, what do we do, I think we have to move away from that if we're really serious to serve the people, As I said back to scene, there are some collaborations, but when it comes to the way they started shouting as if they are really giving it, the people are suffering, and the people need real politicians who can save them. Politics basically is the management of people and resources.
What do you think we need to do differently to enable other political parties to be represented in Parliament? Well, to represent the people by being in Parliament. How can we incorporate other political parties in Parliament?
Definitely, had it not been for the threshold they gave for the PR system, PR system in other countries like Israel, it works perfect. The whole country is one constituency. The number of seats you have is the percentage of votes you have. That's the number of seats you get in Parliament. For us, the threshold they drew for this election was unfortunate. The PR system actually supposed to give smaller parties opportunity to have maybe a seat or not. But as I tell you, even when we had a hung Parliament, we have C4C, NGC, APC, and SLPP, things did not go on well. So it's not so much about the system than the people implementing the system. So we can have the best of laws, we have the best of documents, but when we don't have the right people to interpret that document to the letter, that's where the problem comes in. So we can have parties go to Parliament, but no sooner they know that there is maybe like the issue of the Auditor General. It's something we cannot just sweep under the carpet. It's a slap to our face as APC, to see that we have members of Parliament that collaborated with the ruling government. And those are one of the examples I would tell you I was referring to. We don't want to see that. So even if you have 10 parties in Parliament, if such things happen, it's not good for country. So even if we have 2 parties, the same thing. So we're talking about people with credibility, integrity, to know that you are serving the people. But no sooner they go to that house, they went to that house, you see people start, all they think is about their welfare. Sitting fees, this and that. This is not good for. We are representing the people. We're supposed to represent the people. So even if we have 2 parties, 10 parties, if we don't have men of character, we still end up to that state.
How important do you think it is for other political parties to be in Parliament? Or perhaps what would you say is the impact of the other political parties in Parliament, especially if you're using it from a lens of comparison and contrasting the 5th Parliament that we had C4C and NGC joining the APC and SLPP with the Paramount Chief MPs, compared to now when it's just the APC and the SLPP?
In fact, when it's just about the Paramount Chief, those are people who are supposed to be in that house. If I have my way, the Paramount Chief should move out of that house.
Why?
They are traditional leaders. When I was there, you heard them say, I'm not a politician. And Parliament is a house of politics. If you are not a politician, don't go there. At the end of the day, it's just an overwhelming vote for the government of the day. time immemorial, that's how it has been. So, in fact, maybe you can have a traditional house or second house where we have like former chief justices, head of police, or, you know, they sit in that house to help the parliament to look at some of these laws, you know. So those are people who are not supposed to be there, I must say. The main question that you asked, I would say, you often hear that there is like a fund coming from either ECOWAS or other country in the lead up to election. So these parties sit there, they wait for this money and only activate their parties' activities in the lead up to this election so they can get access to that one. Once they chop it, they leave. So they have not been an example, just like some of the members who are in parliament. The members in parliament, they cry, they talk. Of course, when you hear about there is an issue in parliament, it's about the welfare of parliamentarians. And we've not seen and heard of an issue wherein there's a contention about the welfare of the people, you know, like the toll gates, other things. This day you just pass through the carpet like that. So maybe those parties like the PLP, PDP, PMDC, you name them, and they are moved by what they see from our acting in parliament and say, I too want to be a part of that process, not actually to deliver the nation. But again, we come back to the fourth estate, the journalist, you know. I think it behoves us to ask these people probing questions, ask us probing questions, and move us away from the comfort zone. Most times we come here, we talk what we think is right. And of course, you have us have a field day. But what I think repeatedly, journalists should hold politicians accountable for their stewardship in parliament, you know, because once we get it right in parliament, the nation will be in a steady go. But once we miss it, I tell you, it's always like that. Excuses upon excuses, yeah.
Honorable, before you came, we've been discussing perception around parliament, what people deem it to be, or even the parliamentarians themselves. Now, there was this report, the Afrobarometer, that came out this year, which classed the parliament as one of the most corrupt institutions in Sierra Leone. And before you came, my dear honorable here, we've been discussing, and he said, part of the conversation, that even the committees that are set up, you know, to investigate corruption and all of these kinds of things, they do get calls during their proceedings at times, calls to halt their investigation on certain institutions in the country. Yeah. How corrupt do you think our parliament is? And is it a problem for us?
It is 100% right, because it even came from members of the sitting government now, so members who said parliament is corrupt. And of course, I said that as my premise, that if parliament do what it's supposed to do, we don't have need for ACC and other places. But definitely, there is an atmosphere and a convenience of corruption in parliament, you know. And what he said is right. I've been to some committees, and the chairman of the committee knows the head of the MDA, and this is this I'm saying. If the MDA cannot account for 4 billion leones, you know, then he sends an envelope to the chairman and say, and I have to appear to the committee. And in less than 10-15 minutes, you will hear the committee chair say, you are sat down, you know, to come and bring more paper. That's the end of it. You will never hear anything of that. And they go to oversight committee visits. You know, that's the other ugly part. If I go to the Ministry of Tourism for an oversight, there is a provision, there are funds for that from the government, from parliament. But if I ask the ministry to facilitate my visit in terms of transport and DSA, you've already compromised. What do you have to come and report? That is the norm, you know, in parliament. So if we can address those issues, and I don't know, I've never been too much knowing about the budget of parliament, you know, but I think those are things we need to talk about, not about wardrobes or medical allowance. I oppose to the medical allowance. Why should a member of parliament ask for privilege to travel abroad for medical attention when he should be speaking for better hospital service, medical service in the country? We should be ashamed to talk about that on a very serious note, you know. I'm very lucky that I'm not a person who fell sick easily, you know. But even if I do, I think I have to give respect to our institution. If you cannot advocate in parliament for Connor to be a functioning hospital, then you say when you are sick, you have to be flown out of the country. It's a malrepresentation. So definitely, when you look at those bits, you look at them as little things, but they are the little debts that pile up the garbage. Yeah.
What where do you think the problem lies? I mean, is it a problem of character of men and women that serve us as politicians or as parliamentarians, or a critical system failure generally?
It is a conglomeration of maybe two of those two and many more. But let me tell you where we got it wrong. The perception you talked about when we want to go to parliament. Okay, vote for me, I will do this. Parliamentarians don't do. They don't have the resources to do. You know, and this is why I call also the Fourth Estate time and again to help the public understand that we've moved from the British parliamentary system wherein members of ministers emanate from the parliament. You know, this is now the American presidential system wherein we tend to practice separation of powers. You cannot be a member of parliament and be a minister. The funds are given to ministers. And even what was being done by members of parliament, that responsibility has been devolved to local councils. You know, but when these people come to campaign, if you vote for me, I'll build a school here, I'll do that. And definitely I will tell you, most MPs in this present parliament, or even our time, they live in deficits from paycheck to paycheck, you know, and it was not good. Also, the problem is that we have wrong people going to parliament as a result of the parties, you know, because for me, parliament should be a vocation. It should be a lifetime something, you know. But this 771K in the Constitution, if you don't speak in favor of your party or you support the opposition, you know, you'll be removed from parliament. I was threatened by that when the SFP came up with the free quality education. I debated to that motion and I contributed healthily. And when I came up, people said, you know, they support SFP, but that thing is a national agenda. Just like the free health, free health and provision and ESCOMA came up with. Today, everybody's benefiting. So the free quality education, I would expect the same thing. And I contributed, even though it has some lapses, but it was a good initiative, which as a member of parliament have to support. But you have those lame ducks who the party just chose, you know, from nowhere, and they sit there. And when you say something for national development, they are the first to catalog that and report to the party leadership. You know, those are also challenges. But I think it behoves the parties to look for quality representation. We should give meaning to our parliament. It's not a place to pay party faithfuls who may have supported you in a campaign. And I think that's where we have to look at the quality. If possible, it's not possible because political parties are independent. But we have the way they go about selecting some of these people, you know, especially moving from where we have been, where the constituency will vote for their people, will come back to the PR system and give back the power to a few hands to select who goes to parliament. I think that's where President Bio reversed all the gains we've made in terms of democratic pursuits.
Some of the people believe that the excessiveness of power of the executive is a problem and it needs to be quenched. By doing so, revisiting the Constitution of Sierra Leone.
Absolutely. In fact, I always cite that draft by Justice Kawan and his team. I read it every day, you know, and when I was removed from parliament, we went to these embassies, high commissions. You know, one of them told us, he said, we cannot do anything, he said, because we funded this work and to have a constitutional review to remove some of these powers from the president, from executive president or supreme executive authority to CEO, chief executive officer. That's section 40, you know, meaning that as a CEO of an organization or company, you have a board of trustees. So you answerable to people, you are very much limited. But of course, what President Bio used to bring in the speaker, other things, remove us from power, these are all executive powers, you know, which would have not been there. And I could remember vividly, you know, when Justice Kawan said 3 months to his demise, he said, I will not be here tomorrow. He was on 98.1. He said, but please, I want this document to pass. Let Parliament pass this document. That was 2016. He said, I might not be there tomorrow. And definitely we saw it. Some of us who believe in him, we are the first victim because in 13 months stint, I was removed from Parliament. But had we tabled that document and became the new constitution, it would have been a different case. And we still have to go back to that document.
What we see between the APC and the SLPP is a tit-for-tat kind of political practice. The parliament you spoke about, the SLPP would catalogue their own instances of when APC had set bad precedents, doing things, again, precedents obviously, for the first time. The APC, on the other hand, would tell you moments or times in history when the SLPP had set bad precedents. mostly when you confront these political parties, the APC and the SLPP, they would justify their own wrong and compare it to the wrong that their opponent, the APC, SLPP, had done in previous years. But this is affecting the country.
Absolutely.
How a speaker is appointed, some would tell you APC had laid a bad precedence from their days, and now even the removal of MPs, you became a victim. The SLPP would tell you it had happened before the APC had done it. We seem to be stuck as a nation in what seems to be a battlefield between the APC and the SLPP. How do we get out of it?
Is to have liberal minds. In all of this, we have liberal politicians. There are people in the SLPP who not just see green, they also see red, vice versa. These are the people who should come out and speak. And maybe I'm one of them, but it's not without a price, you know, a price to pay. Because once you do, you came out and speak, people start to tag you, oh, this SLP don't buy them. Oh, this APC don't buy. It is common. But again, we have to do a forceful intervention. Whether the noise is loud or not, we have to live what we believe. We have to express that. This is the only thing. I don't believe in tit for tat, you know, definitely. And I know it will never help us, you know. And we have to move from that point. But another thing we need to consider, these people who are having this quote-unquote mushroom parties, smaller parties, if at all anything, during election time, could they form a coalition so that at least they can have like 3 or 4 seats and start to put pressure on these two parties. I'm telling you, you do hear this, that when you are in the north, and you are given an APC symbol, you are sure of winning automatically. The same thing in the south, in the east, northwest for APC, southeast for SLPP. That's one thing we need to change. People should not take things for granted. And because of that, that's why we still have this mentality of tit for tat. Oh, now do this with the cantonal. But again, we have to rewrite our history. If this is what, Fabian, if this is what we need to do in these 5-10 years as a people, let's do it and try to set a better pace for better governance in our country. If somebody says if we apply what we see now, an eye for an eye, then the world will go blind. You know, definitely we don't want that. But I always think that politics is not a matter of life and death, and you have a part to play, and play it well so that everybody will benefit, but not for self-aggrandizement. 80 to 90% of people in politics, it's about self. But I think we have to change the trajectory and look at how people can think, feel, and reason based on national agenda instead of personal profit.
Thank you very much, Honorable SIRAJI Kamara and Honorable Sir Charles, for being with us this morning on Wake Up Sierra Leone.
So we are both ex, is it?
Yeah. Former members of Parliament, APC and C4C.
Yes.
Well, we're taking a quick break now, and when we come back, we'll move into the final segment of the program where we'll be discussing football. Please stay with us. We'll be right back.